begins the moment you choose yourself. Welcome to Rise Up and Heal. I'm Annie, your host. In today's episode of Rise Up and Heal, I sit down with Jay. Jay Waddell is a speaker, author, storyteller, dog walker, heart transplant recipient, and resides in Colorado. Today, Jay helps and encourages others to rewrite their own stories through sharing his own stories of rewiring his brain. Let me get my words out. Resilience, and that we all have the power to heal. I am so super excited to be speaking with Jay today as we are going to be talking about Flip It, which is just, I'll let Jay explain all of this. But Jay, welcome to Rise Up and Heal. Thank you ever so much for joining me today.
Hey, Annie, thank you so much. I've met you once, I've known you for 60 minutes, and I feel like we connect and go back a long, long ways somehow, our
Yeah.
souls. So I'm
Absolutely.
I'm I'm so stoked to be here. I know a few of the things we'll talk about, maybe not all. And so I'm super excited. Let's get her done.
Let's get in and do this. So, Jay, because I've had the opportunity to speak with you off air, so to speak, can you please share like your newest venture and the whole thing behind Flip It?
I would love to. You know I would. And so I'm going to give a tiny bit of context, Annie, which is I did have a major stroke. I did have a heart transplant, and they're not trivial. And here I am, and doing lots of stuff and having fun. I did write one book. It's called Voices from the Heart, a collection of inspiring heart transplant stories, and it's 34 stories from people who are heart transplant survivors. And I interviewed them all and worked with them, and they're all from all over the world, including Australia and New Zealand. And that journey, that process of collecting stories and giving people who've done hard stuff. Most of these people are not writers, they're not podcast people. And so they're real humans who went through real stuff, and talking to them and give them a platform and sharing their voice so that others facing a transplant or facing any hard stuff um, have a lived experience they can look at for how to navigate. So where does Flip It come in? Flip It is, you finish one thing and in life and you say, so what's next? And so I was a business strategy consultant among other things. And I um I said, so, I took stock. What am I good at? What do I like doing? What gives me juice? I don't really have to make money right now. I'm 71 years old. And so what gives me juice is talking to people and having intimate and vulnerable and meaningful conversations like 5 minutes in with somebody I've never met. And it's because we've all gone through some hard things, and we together like to explore what is the process of flipping forward in life look like. And
Yeah.
so that's how it got started. And I'm more than halfway done with the project. Flip It, stories of flipping forward after trauma and adversity. And and I've got 17 stories. And Annie, you might be one of them. I think you've got an amazing flip it story in you, from your background. But the process is amazing because you talk to people who had stuff happen, from going blind midlife to breast cancer to, a home invasion that, scared the heck out of a young mother with a 4-month-old baby. And so I just today, a young man, 28 years old with cerebral palsy, he and I have talked, and he says, I would like to be in Flip It, and I would be honored. And so I can't tell you how excited I am by the process and meeting amazing people going through the stuff that I don't think it's just these 17 people. I think it's a universal thing. Life is hard,
Yeah.
and it's different hard
Yeah.
at different times, and it comes in different ways,
Yeah.
but hard is hard. And we sort of get stuck, and you get in this place, and inertia takes over. You don't quite know what to do. You're a bit paralyzed. You're in the headlights, and you don't have a plan. You don't know how to get out of it. You might be depressed. You don't know where to go, but you just say, I don't want to stay where I am.
Yeah.
And that's the essence of Flip It. That's the essence of the project. And it's my belief and the cadre of flippers that I'm talking to. It's our collective belief if we share our lived experience in the right way. We're not saying, by God, here are the 7 tips for you to fix your life. That's not it. It's here's our lived experience, and if you can relate to it and what we did to navigate and get unstuck, if any of that's relevant, awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? This is the one of the things that I love is that we do get to have conversations with people who are doing exactly that. That life does happen. Life happens to each and every one of us. And, speaking with you and sharing what you're doing and your journey of where you've come from, and also with other people that I've been able to chat to, this is the thing. It's about giving people hope that when they are going through such challenging and difficult times, that they can hear our stories, they can hear these conversations, and it gives them hope to basically go, you know what? I don't want to stay stuck here. Where can I go from here?
Totally agree. And hope, yeah, when you get in a certain move into a new world, and I'm kind of in the world of retired and writing books and collecting stories and studying resilience and studying
Mm.
studying grief and studying hope. I've tried to read a lot of stuff about hope and helping people have hope. And I think hope is having a belief. The definition that gravitates most with me now is having a belief that it's possible for a better outcome, even in the face of seemingly overwhelming, odds.
Yeah.
So even though things are tough, you hang on to this concept that there's a chance for a better outcome here. And I almost tear up, you get so caught up in this stuff and talking to people and I almost tear up just that concept of believing in a better outcome, kind of no matter where you are, is so important.
It really is. And by doing that too, it starts to create this belief within yourself that, you know what, it is possible to move forward. It is possible to change direction. It is possible to absolutely take what has happened. And I guess in a way, you're reinventing yourself, aren't you? Like you just start to reinvent yourself into something that hopefully feels more aligned.
Yeah, that is your words ring so true. I read something, I have time, and so I read stuff and you glom onto words. I think words are, inspirational and important, and the words where you can use fuel, you can use adversity as fuel for creativity. You can use adversity for fuel for creativity, and so as perfect when I saw it, and it resonated immediately that, I'm trying to do some writing and journaling and creative endeavors that I don't even quite know what, but how do I use what's happened, to provoke me? And it actually goes one step bigger that when I get, now as a heart transplant recipient, I'm on immunosuppression drugs and, they compromise you a bit and there's complications and you're at risk for skin cancer and other cancer and, some organ failure and that may or may not come, so don't sit around and worry about it, but get on with stuff. And now even when I hit a hard chapter or a complication that, might put me in the hospital for a bit or whatever, I say, you know, great. I've got a tough chapter ahead of me. I will come through. I have before, and this chapter will take me somewhere, and it will give me profound stimulation, and I'm gonna get a dose of creativity and spark, and I'll see the world a bit different for moving through whatever I'm going headed into.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that because, like you said, it's like, oh, here's another chapter because this is it. Our lives are chapters. They're chapters in a book, and we don't have to be stuck in that same chapter. We don't have to be stuck on that same page that we can move forward. And here you are, you know, this having gone through and you're the recipient of a heart transplant, which is just that story in itself is just incredible. But the other beautiful thing is you're out there and you're working in the community and you're talking to people and you're encouraging them to share their stories. But you're out there also, like you just participated in the games, like you were just sharing with me, like there were 9,000 recipients and sponsors and family and everybody who have come together where they're sharing the story. And you're one of those lights, like you are out there advocating that, you know what, yeah, we've been through such adversity, but here we are flipping it and doing something
Yeah,
different.
you're totally right. And the games you reference
Mm,
was 5 days ago, and it was the World Transplant Games. They happen once a year anywhere in the world, and 9,000 people came, and they were people who'd received an organ, heart, liver, kidney, lungs, donors, living donors like a kidney,
mm,
families of deceased donors like heart donors, and then caregivers and children, and some physicians and providers, anybody connected to that transplant world and came together. There were 100+ events, and in general, nobody cared if they won a medal. There were medals. I happened to win one playing poker. And I don't care. You know, it was sitting around a table with people I've never met from all over the world who had, and we introduced ourselves, where are you from? What's your first name? What organ did you get? How long ago?
yeah,
And how often you sit in a group, where it's go, I'm Earl, I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm 74 and I got a liver 28 years ago, and then the next person would go. And, so,
yeah.
how do you sit in a group like that and say, oh gosh, I really hope I win this contest? It's like we talk, we're all winners just for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing, and I think this is the beautiful thing with healing and when you go through such stuff, is that you do have this amazing opportunity where you do really get to be able to connect with people. And each and every person gets to share their story. And it's not like you go deep pretty damn quickly. And I love that. I love, because this is why I love doing what I do, is that I'm able to speak with people like yourself, where we are having these really deep sort of conversations and we're talking it through and everything also like with you being a part of those games and having these conversations like you said, you're all sitting there having conversations going, well, yeah, I'm a liver recipient, I'm a heart recipient, I'm this, and talking and having stories about how this has really impacted these people, as well as you're talking about how this has really impacted you and the journey that you've been on, and, the association of if there's any guilt around that, if there's any shame, if there's, you know, the gratitude, the support. Like there's so much stuff in the sense of it's such a huge emotional, I'm trying to find the word. It's this huge emotional, I guess, story for everybody, but it's there's so much within that.
Yeah, and two things. And the first one is we're talking about organ donation. So if you're not, listeners, if you're not currently an organ donor, check the box to be one. The organ you may share could save somebody's life, like me or
Yeah.
thousands of other people. Um, and the second thing is you talked about kind of the emotional connection
Yeah.
with my tribe,
Yeah.
and my tribe is people who got a transplant, and and this is kind of a message for anybody who interacts with somebody who's got some hard things going on, often people say to the person with hard stuff, how you doing? And 9 out of 10 times they respond, good. And they're in the tribe of people, with this really hard stuff, and they don't want to unload it every time and rehash it. But when they get into, I went out for lunch a couple times with other folks just like myself, and when we got there and it was just us, we could say, "So have you felt guilty that somebody died for you to get a heart and live?" And what are you most scared about in terms of complications? And how did you deal with them? And, what are the three things that you love the most because you got a heart or another organ and got more life? What are the three things that brought you the greatest joy? And sitting around the table and talking about that was just so unbelievably uplifting.
Yeah. Yeah. And it would be because you are sharing this and it is going so in depth. And I think this is the thing too, is that the beautiful thing with when, I mean, we all have a choice. And I guess this is the beautiful thing is that you can have this choice of whether you choose to share your story and to help others, or you can stay in the pond, I guess, that you're currently sitting in. But there is and always will be people out there who have gone through similar circumstances to yourself. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things is just letting people know that they are not alone. You're never alone. There are definitely people out there, and sometimes it might start with just you sharing your story so that helps other people come along and be part of that community. And I think this is the beautiful thing. Like I mean, you are doing that yourself, but you have placed yourself in a community with people who have gone through very similar circumstances to yourself.
Yeah, that's so true, Annie. And I got my new heart 2.5 years ago, and maybe 6 months after it, so 2 summers ago, two stateside summers, uh, I was at a dinner party with friends, longtime friends, and they said, "Oh, Jay, you're so resilient. You need to share your story." And I was hesitant and a bit reluctant, and said, I don't want to put my story out there. I don't know that it's that special." And they said, "Jay, listen, you demonstrating that you went through it, it's less about you specifically. It's more about when hard stuff comes up, the collective we, all of us can get through hard stuff because we've seen you do it. And
Yeah.
so forget that it's you. You sharing your lived experience is a model for moving through hard stuff, and that it can be done. And hearing that enough times, did give me confidence and worthiness. That sharing your story, a lot of us, don't necessarily seek that spotlight, and you wonder if you're worthy or if it's anything extraordinary. But the fact that you're ordinary and you got through it makes it more approachable and accessible for other people that they can also get through stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I love doing what I'm doing and talking about like with Rise Up and Heal, because we all can rise up from the ashes. And it really is just plugging yourself in and finding the right people, I guess, to listen to, or where you feel comfortable enough that you can that it resonates to help you. And not and I think you like you said it earlier on in the podcast that the stuff I do to heal myself from what I've been through, for the stuff that you've done to heal yourself, it may not resonate with some people. And that's okay because it's about trying, I believe, a whole heap of different methodologies that is going to help you get you from where you currently are to where you want to go. And it's about having that hope and that belief that you can do it. Like, we are all so worthy. And I guess the other thing is too, is when we are, and we do find, like with sharing our stories, and you do have conversations with people who have been in similar circumstances, it validates you. And I love that you said that it helped you feel worthy, because you're getting that validation to go, you know what you went through is, yeah, I've been through similar stuff that people can share, and they can resonate with that. So it's good that, people like yourself are doing that.
Something else about the healing process, I connect, with people in a lot of ways, and I belong to a writing community, and the writing community is people, it's called the Unsealed, and it was started by somebody who had a deep dark secret, sexually abused when they were young, and buried the event and didn't share it for 20 years, and finally decided to unseal it and share it, and went public, and it just resonated, and it got like 1 million views, and so that person started a writing community and left a great job to start this community to help other people unseal their
Yeah.
secrets. And in there, we write stories and have open mic nights and write poems. And one person was in there and talked about the healing process, and read their letter. And in it, they said, "Love heals, love heals." And they talked about their support and their connection, and their puppy dog, that they loved, and just and just I get chills thinking about it now. And it's such a simple phrase, love heals.
Yeah.
You can have broken bones, or it's all this stuff going on, and the concept that love heals just like transcends so much. So I put that out there.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of the biggest things. And that's why I love doing what I'm doing, like with Louise Hay's work, is that she's very much that love does heal. And it is very much about, learning to like and love and approve of yourself. And that is the biggest, I think that is the biggest thing, is the second that you can start to approve of yourself. I mean, we all make mistakes. We've all made choices in life that we go, okay, what the hell was I thinking? That was not good. Or, do you know what I mean? But we did what we did in the moments that potentially at that particular point in time we thought was the right thing. But it's about now going, all right, who do I want to become? Where do I actually want to go? How do I want my life to look? Like,
No, that's very good, and the facilitator of that writing community is very good. And with the individual sharing their story, she said after Charmaine shared that, hard to say, Charmaine shared, but after Charmaine shared, the facilitator Lauren said, "Charmaine, do you love yourself?"
hmm,
And because Charmaine had gone through a lot of self-doubt, and and she said, "Do you love who you're becoming?" And Charmaine goes, "Yeah, yes, yes, I do." I mean, it was just like so empowering,
yeah.
um, to see that and feel that. So yes, totally. You start to love by yourself, love yourself.
Absolutely. And that, I think, it's the most transforming moment, is when you can honestly start to love and like and approve of yourself, and you start to honor you, and you start to feel better. You start to feel more aligned. You start to feel more empowered. You just, I don't even know if I can fully put it into words, Jay, because but you know what I'm saying, because like you've doing this journey yourself, but it really, it changes everything. It changes everything within, and happens within then starts to filter on the outside.
Yeah, I had an epiphany moment years ago. I think related to this area. I was getting divorced, and I was with longtime friends of both my ex and myself, and in any marriage, it's not all one-sided. Like she screwed up, he screwed up, and so we kind of each had our share. And a friend of mine, I'd kind of worked so hard to be good dad, good son, good spouse, all these things. And a friend of mine kind of helping me acknowledge that, I made some mistakes too,
Yes.
said, so you might have screwed up. What does that make you?
Yeah.
And I couldn't answer what she was looking for. And she kept asking about 4 times. And finally, she, yes. Hi, one thing I was going to share on that note about loving yourself, Annie, is I was with a friend, and it was in when I was in the process of getting divorced after 29 years, and my belief is divorces aren't all one-sided, like he screwed up, she screwed up. It usually is a mix and a balance of, things to go around. But my friend said, so you might have made mistakes, Jay. What does that make you?
Mm.
And I couldn't put my finger on what she wanted. And she asked about 4 times. And she said, so you made mistakes. What does that make you? And finally I go, human? And she goes, yeah. So it made you human. Um, and you're part of the human race,
Yeah.
just like the rest of us.
Yes.
And that was so freeing. And it took like this giant weight, off my shoulders, by owning some of that and acknowledging you're not going to get it all right, and don't beat yourself up, move on and say, what did I learn, and how can I make it better? And I love myself. I'm a good person. I will be even better tomorrow. And
Yeah.
so cut yourself some grace.
Absolutely. And every day, like every day is a new day. So we get to start over and we can reflect at the end of the day, we can reflect on our day and go, okay, well, I could have maybe done this a bit different today, or maybe that didn't work well. And, you know, maybe, but you know what? Starting tomorrow, I'm going to be very conscious of that and I'm going to, you know, change that because that's one thing that we do have. We have that power to change if we choose to change. And we can all do that. And then it's about looking back and looking at the patterns and the behaviors that are potentially driving us to where we are today and disrupting, I guess, those patterns. And like you said, in the sense of, yeah, this is my story, this is what I've been through, but now I'm going to flip it and I'm going to
Yeah.
change direction.
Right. Annie, you had asked me if I would walk through my story. Would you like me to do that?
I'd love you to walk through your story, please.
Okay, and if I linger, you speed me up. What I have found, from interviewing people myself is when you ask people about their health journey, sometimes they want to give you all the details. So, I've told it enough. I'll try and make it more concise. So, I'm 71, and I had 40 years of smooth sailing at the start. I grew up on a dairy farm in Wisconsin, working with my dad and brothers, learned a blue collar work ethic, get up and put in good hours and get going, and got married young, had 2 kids, career went well, lived overseas, got to travel a lot, and things were cruising. And then I had a gene mutation that led to cardiomyopathy and a lot of cardiac problems. I I was pretty fit. I ran, I biked, I hiked, played tennis, and all of a sudden I couldn't do those things in my 50s. It got worse and worse. Um, as as I was about 60, I'm 71 now, around 60, I and I had a family history of heart stuff, but I didn't know about the gene mutation, had not done genetic testing. Another public service announcement, it's worthwhile to do genetic testing. So if you have something, you can be preemptive and proactive and get a cardiologist on board and get a baseline and better monitor your health. But I did not do that. So you can learn from my mistake there. And around 60, my heart issues got worse. I went into uh, TIAs, transient ischemic attacks, which are mini strokes. And a stroke is your heart's not quite pumping right. Blood sits in your left ventricle and coagulates, and it gets thick, and it forms a clot, and that clot breaks loose, goes through a vein to your brain, and where that clot hits, man, it destroys that tissue, never to recover. And strokes are of many sizes, and a TIA, transient ischemic events, is a mini stroke. So I had several of those teaching in the business school at the local university in front of 50 students. My slides projected up on the wall, and with a TIA mini stroke, uh, your brain goes blank. The small blood clot hits the brain somewhere, and you black out. You don't faint, you don't fall to the floor, but your brain goes blank. I did not know who the people in the room were, or where I was, or what's on the wall, and I was in a fog for a couple of minutes. Came out of it, and my students, of course, said, "Jay, are you okay? Are you all right? What was that?" And stupid and stoic, I said, "Yeah, yeah, I'm good." And finished the lecture, did two more lectures for the day, went home and thought, I don't think that's good. I don't think that's normal. Went to a doctor, but I also had a torn rotator cuff and damage in my shoulder at the time. And that pain was so dominating that when I went to the doctor, I talked about that and not my mini stroke. And so, we didn't diagnose it. And 5 days later, I had a massive stroke and I had a big blood clot break loose, go to my brain, and it knocked me out for about 18 months. And I lost much of my memory for 6 to 9 months. I couldn't drive a car. I I loved playing tennis. I couldn't play tennis for 9 months. I could not teach. I couldn't go back to work. I couldn't even stay by myself. And so I was whacked. And um, I had to go live with my girlfriend. We lived 10 minutes apart. And frankly, laying in the hospital after the stroke, I thought I may never work again or drive again or play tennis. And I got to believe my girlfriend will dump me. I'm damaged goods. We've been together about 8 years, and I thought, why would she stick around? I'm going to be so beat up. But she stepped up and said, "Come stay with me," and she just caretook me. And I would walk through the house at 11 in the morning and cry and go, "Oh my God, look at her. How could I think she's not loyal?" And so that was a decade ago. And you go through that, and we haven't had a nanosecond of disagreement in 10 years. It's like she's got my back. So that happened, but it gave me a heads up that I had heart issues, and it was diagnosed as congestive heart failure that ran in my family. Mother and grandmother and some cousins had it, died from it. So it gets your attention, and so I had to manage heart failure and do some surgical procedures and ablations and drugs that try to keep you in a good electrical rhythm and not arrhythmias that are life-threatening. And I'm trying to limit the medical jargon here, but so I had a decade of dealing with that. My heart failure doc, managing my heart failure, said, "You may need a transplant someday." I consistently said, "Thanks, but no thanks. Doesn't look like fun. There's not enough hearts to go around. People on the wait list don't get one." And so I was going to pass. And I'd reconciled what'll happen if I don't get one, and I was okay with that. I was fine with it. And and then he said, "You're going down faster than we thought. You've got less than a year to live. And Jay, you're on the wait list, but you've been vacillating whether you want a new heart. So here's the deal. It's Friday, 4 o'clock. You get to decide by Monday morning, are you in or are you out? Do you want to get on the transplant list or not?" And so I had the weekend to think about it, and it wasn't an immediate yes. But after a day, I thought, my nature is adventure, and that's my brand, and I can get in this new club, yet another club, and so I want to get into that club and see where it takes me. So that's what I did. I got on the wait list. I waited 13 days. I got a call at 3 in the morning on a Sunday night. I was sound asleep. The ring, the
Yeah.
phone rang. Believe me, when you're on the wait list, you keep your phone right next to you all the
Yeah.
time, 24/7.
Yeah.
So I get the call. It wakes me out of my sleep, and the person and I thought I'm not. It said unknown caller, and I thought nobody calls with a spam call at 3 a.m. So I answered, and the voice on the other line says, "Hi, this is Kathy. I'm with University of Colorado Health, and I have a new heart for you."
Wow. Wow.
And yeah, that's just, and I was sound asleep, and I was suddenly wide awake,
Yeah.
and I said, Kathy, that's incredible. Can I get my girlfriend on the phone, and be part of this? And she said, of course. So we did. And and she said, I'll share a little detail because people find it interesting. She said, Jay, would you accept a high risk heart? And a high risk heart means, would you accept a heart from somebody um, who had hepatitis C? And if they had hepatitis C, it probably means they were a drug user, from needles. And 3 years ago, you would no way accept a Hep C heart. But in the last 3 years, one of the big pharma companies found a drug. We can whine about big pharma, but man, they saved my butt.
Yeah.
And big pharma created a drug that would 98% cure Hep C. So they said, if you accept a hepatitis C heart, you can take this drug, that 98%, you take this antibiotic for 12 weeks
Yeah.
post-transplant, and 98% it will cure Hep C. And
Wow.
and so, and they had prepped me about this in advance, so it wasn't a surprise.
Yeah.
So Kathy said, would you accept a high risk Hep C heart? The answer is yes. I know all about that, Kathy. I will. And so I did get a high risk heart. It did have Hep C. The donor had Hep C. I did take the antibiotic for 12 weeks. And at 12 weeks, they said, you're cured. You do not have Hep C. So,
Wow.
so I
Incredible.
went forward. I got the heart. It's hard, and believe me, it's 2.5 years. I'm condensing. It was really hard. You take a lot of drugs, steroids, and massive amounts of stuff. You're delusional for 3, 4 days. Conspiracy theory, you believe nurses and doctors are trying to kill you. I mean, this is not just me, it's common for a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Yeah. I
It's
saw
hard stuff.
my nephew go through that. Yeah.
So you're scared. You cry multiple times a day. Your mood swings. You're so appreciative of your loved ones that care for you and of your medical team, and you want to kiss every nurse. Um, and so um, and it's hard and it's painful and recovery is difficult and it gets better each week and you get through it. And I'm 2.5 years out and I'm writing books and I dog walked for an hour. I, got on my spin bike for half an hour and, did some stretching and, I did some writing and so there'll be more ups and downs. And,
Yeah.
the reality is we're going to die someday, me and you and everybody.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be today. And
Nope.
so I got a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah. And this is what I love. I'm so glad that we're having these conversations because with everything that you've been through, and I know like you just really condensed that down, but here you are. Here you are, riding, dog walking, sharing stories. And the best thing is that you participated in those games, that you are still moving forward. You are going off, like you said, you're doing your spin bike and you're doing all of that. And I think this is the most beautiful thing is as an example for everybody who is going through challenging and difficult times and facing adversity that here is Jay, for example, who's gone through everything he's gone through and he's flipped it, which I so love that you are doing this.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much. And one of the things, Annie, we talked about last time, and I mentioned we both talked about mantras. Mantras, I believe, there's mantras, chanting and so
Yeah.
forth. But I think a mantra is in another way of little phrases or slogans or things we get in our head, little tapes that play in our head. And they
Yeah.
could come from a parent, a teacher, a coach, or a movie we saw, a book we read, or our own lived experience. And one of my mantras that gets me through stuff is is so what now what? And so what now what is, excuse my French, shit happens
Yeah.
and life throws us curves and there are some bumps, real bumps and oscillations in the road. And
Absolutely.
life is non-linear. It's not going to be all ponies and rainbows and trending up. And
No.
so when life is non-linear and we get some of that stuff, we don't escape the feelings. You're going to feel angry or sad or depressed or guilt, and that's not weakness, that's the human condition, and it's your nervous system you know trying to protect you and
Yeah.
kicking in when that hard stuff happens. But I think at some point what serves us well is is if we can say, I felt the feelings, I have a right to be sad or angry or depressed, and right now I don't want to stay where I am. And so I've been through the so what is the now what, and what can I do next? So what, now what? Believe me, I've used that in the last many years, many times when, 2 months ago, I had a really tough stretch with uh, a new viral bacteria specific to heart transplant people popped up and it presented, and I was really sick and in the hospital for quite a while, and went through it and uncertainty and got through it, and at some point in there, I there was a bunch of so what, like what just happened, and a bunch of feeling the feelings. But somewhere in there I said, now what? What is my situation? What can I do? I can't control it, but can I influence it by my behavior and diet and, things I do? And what is uncontrollable? I will let go of that. What is controllable? I will try and influence that. And what is my next step? And so what, now what has really served me well.
I love that. So what? Now what? And I love it because now it is about going, all right, I want to move forward. And where can I go from here? Jay, thank you so, so much for sharing your story, for sharing your journey and the things that you have been through. I love that you are such an advocate and that you are out there helping others and being in your own, like you said, exclusive community with the recipients, but also to writing, continually writing, and that you are involved within the writing community too. So, Jay, thank you so much for being on Rise Up and Heal today.
Thank you, Annie. And if I'm going to sneak in one more thing,
Go
which
for it.
is I am working on my book project, Flip It, Stories of Flipping Forward After Trauma and Adversity. And I am seeking flippers, those people who've moved through really hard things. And it's not that they've resolved it. It's not that triumphantly they're holding the bike over their heads for riding up, a huge mountain, but that they've started to move forward. And that's what the project is about. And so if there are people out there who have a flip story to share that would benefit others, I would love to hear from you. And I'm sure Annie will put my contact information in the show notes.
Absolutely. So, what would be the best way for them to contact you?
I'll share my email,
Beautiful.
Jay Waddell 2221 at gmail.com. Jay Waddell, two D's, two L's, 2221 at gmail.com. And
Beautiful.
I'll share my phone number if you want to put that in there too, then, Annie.
Great. Thank you. And I will absolutely share your details in the description. And what a beautiful opportunity for those people who, would like to be a part of this story that you're creating or this book. So, with a bunch of other stories, which again just brings hope to people who are facing such adverse situations. So, Jay, again, thank you ever so much for being Rise Up and Heal. I just truly appreciate you being here today. And to everybody who is listening, thank you so much for being a part of the Rise Up and Heal community. Please take care of you. And I look forward to catching up with you all real soon. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks for having me on, Annie. Really appreciate it. It was very fun.
Thank you.